The elevator jolted to a stop between floors, its hum fading into a suffocating silence that pressed against Mila's chest like a lover's hesitant hand. Kinsley's eyes locked onto hers, dark and unyielding, as if she had been waiting for this exact moment to unravel everything. "I saw you last night, Mila. Through the crack in your door." Her voice a low murmur that slithered into the space between them, carrying the weight of confessions neither had dared to voice. Mila froze, her fingers tightening around the strap of her messenger bag, the one stuffed with sketches from a sleepless night of deadlines and half-formed dreams. The air in the elevator felt thicker now, charged with the scent of Kinsley's perfume. Something earthy and forbidden, like rain-soaked soil after a storm. She was new to this building, this slice of Manhattan's relentless pulse, having fled the quiet suburbs of upstate New York just 3 weeks ago for a fresh start in the city's unyielding embrace. Graphic design gigs paid the rent on her tiny one-bedroom, but they did little to fill the hollow ache left by a string of relationships that had crumbled like overworked charcoal under her fingertips. And now this woman, her neighbor from the floor above, with her sharp jawline and eyes that seemed to see straight through to the raw edges of Mila's soul, was whispering secrets that made her skin prickle. Kinsley stepped closer, the space between them shrinking until Mila could feel the warmth radiating from her body. "You were touching yourself, weren't you? Thinking of someone you shouldn't." The words hung there, not accusatory, but laced with a hunger that mirrored Mila's own buried longings. Kinsley was a journalist, the kind who chased stories through the underbelly of the city. Her bylines splashed across pages that exposed corruption and hidden lives. Mila had glimpsed her once in the lobby, heels clicking against marble, laptop under arm, always rushing toward some deadline that demanded her fire. But here, trapped in this metal box, Kinsley was no longer the poised professional. Her breath came in shallow bursts, betraying the crack in her armor. Mila swallowed hard, her throat dry as the desert winds shed imagined from her last failed romance out west. "How do you know that?" It wasn't a question. Not really. More a plea wrapped in denial. The elevator groaned, as if protesting the intimacy unfolding within its confines. But the lights flickered once and held steady. Kinsley's hand brushed Mila's arm, a feather-light touch that sent sparks racing up her spine. "Because I was doing the same. Right above you. Listening to the floorboards creak under my weight. Imagining it was you instead of the ghost of my ex." The admission landed like a stone in still water, ripples spreading through Mila's veins. She had noticed Kinsley before, in fleeting moments, the way her laughter echoed down the hallway during late-night calls, or how she'd linger by the mailboxes, scanning headlines with a furrowed brow that made Mila want to smooth it away with her thumb. But this was a threshold, a line drawn in the dim emergency light. Mila's heart pounded, a drumbeat urging her forward even as fear clawed at her heels. She leaned in, her lips parting slightly, the distance between them now measured in heartbeats rather than inches. "What if someone hears us?" Kinsley smiled, a slow curve that held both promise and peril. "Then they'll know what we've both been hiding." Her fingers traced the edge of Mila's collar, tentative at first, then bolder, as if testing the waters of a river long dammed by convention. The elevator shuddered again, doors finally parting with a reluctant sigh on the 12th floor. But neither moved. The hallway stretched out empty, fluorescent lights buzzing like distant fireflies, inviting them into the unknown. Mila stepped out first, her legs unsteady, leading the way to her door with keys jingling like nervous laughter in her palm. Kinsley followed, her presence a shadow that felt more like a caress. Inside, the apartment was a chaos of half-unpacked boxes and vibrant prints pinned to walls, echoes of Mila's creative turmoil. She flicked on a lamp, its warm glow chasing away the morning's crisp light filtering through rain-streaked windows. "Sit," Mila said, gesturing to the worn couch, her voice softer now, laced with the tremor of anticipation. Kinsley sank into the cushions, crossing her legs with the grace of someone who navigated boardrooms and back alleys alike. She watched Mila pour coffee from a pot left brewing since dawn, the steam rising like unspoken thoughts. "Tell me about her. The one you were thinking of." Kinsley's tone was gentle, probing without pressure, the journalist's instinct tempered by genuine curiosity. Mila handed her the mug, their fingers brushing in a spark that made her pause, breath-catching. "It was you. Actually. From the first time I saw you in the lobby, rushing out with that determined stride. I couldn't shake it. The words tumbled out. Raw and unfiltered. Surprising even herself. She sat beside Kinsley. Close enough to feel the heat of her thigh against her own. The contact grounding yet electrifying. Kinsley's eyes softened. The sharp edges melting into something vulnerable. Me too. God. Mila. It's been months since Sarah left. Taking half my heart and all my trust with her. I hear noises from below. And it's you every time? Pulling me under. She set the mug down. Her hand finding Mila's knee. Resting there like an anchor in turbulent seas. A sigh escaped her. Long and weighted. Carrying the burden of nights spent alone in a city that never slept. They talked then. Words weaving through the morning light. Confessions spilling like ink on fresh canvas. Mila spoke of her move to the city. The suffocating expectations back home where love like theirs was whispered about in shadowed corners rather than shouted from rooftops. Kinsley shared fragments of her latest story. A piece on hidden queer histories in New York's forgotten speakeasies. Her voice gaining strength with each detail. Laughter bubbled up unexpectedly. Easing the tension. But beneath it simmered a current. Pulling them closer. By noon. The coffee had gone cold. And the space between them had vanished. Kinsley's hand slid higher. Tracing patterns on Mila's thigh that made her breath hitch. Is this what you imagined? She murmured. Her lips hovering near Mila's ear. Voice a velvet thread. Mila turned. Their faces aligning. Breaths mingling. Better. Her response was a whisper. And then their mouths met. Tentative at first. A question posed in the soft press of lips. Kinsley's taste was coffee and salt. Urgency and restraint. Her hand cupping Mila's face as if she were something precious. Fragile. The kiss deepened. Tongues exploring with the hunger of starved artists. Mila's fingers tangling in Kinsley's hair. Pulling her closer. They broke apart gasping. Foreheads resting together. The world outside fading to a distant hum. We shouldn't rush this. Mila said. Even as her body arched toward Kinsley's touch. Craving more. Kinsley nodded. Her thumb stroking Mila's cheek. No rushing. But tonight. Dinner. My place. Let me cook for you. Something simple. Pasta maybe. With wine that loosens tongues and hearts. Mila agreed. The promise of evening wrapping around them like a shared secret. As Kinsley left. The door clicking shut behind her. Mila leaned against it. Heart racing. A smile breaking through the remnants of her solitude. The day stretched ahead. Filled with sketches and sunlight. But her thoughts lingered on the woman upstairs. On the whisper that had cracked open her world. Afternoon found Mila at her drafting table. Pencils dancing across paper. But her lines curved softer now. Infused with the memory of Kinsley's touch. She texted a friend back in the suburbs. Vague words about a promising connection. The screen glowing with emojis that hid the depth of her stirring hope. By dusk. The city skyline twinkled through her window. A mosaic of lights that mirrored the flicker in her chest. She dressed carefully. A simple black dress that hugged her curves. Makeup subtle to highlight the flush already warming her skin. The elevator ride up was solitary this time. Each floor a countdown to vulnerability. Kinsley's door opened to the aroma of garlic and basil. Her hair tied back. Apron dusted with flour. A sight so domestic it tugged at something deep in Mila. Come in. Kinsley said. Pulling her into a hug that lingered. Bodies aligning in quiet harmony. The apartment was a mirror to Kinsley's mind. Bookshelves crammed with tomes on ethics and espionage. A typewriter on the desk like a relic from another era. They ate at a small table by the window. Overlooking the Hudson River's dark shimmer. Wine glasses clinking in toasts to new beginnings. Conversation flowed. Dipping into dreams deferred. Mila confessed her fear of commitment. How past lovers had seen her art as competition rather than compliment. Kinsley admitted the toll of her work. Nights chasing leads that left her hollow. Yearning for someone to ground her. Their hands intertwined across the table. Fingers lacing like promises. After dinner. They moved to the couch. A bottle of red between them. The city's nocturne providing backdrop. Kinsley's head rested on Mila's shoulder. A sigh escaping as she traced idle patterns on her arm. What are we doing here? She asked. Voice soft with wonder. Falling? Maybe. Mila tilted her chin up. Sealing the words with a kiss that started slow. building like a crescendo in one of Kinsley's stories. Hands roamed, fabrics whispering against skin, the heat rising until they were breathless, tangled in each other. But Kinsley pulled back. Eyes searching. Not tonight. Not like this. I want to know you first. All of you. The restraint was a gift. A bridge to something deeper. And Mila nodded, heart swelling with gratitude. They parted with a kiss at the door, lingering until the hallway light buzzed overhead. Back in her apartment, Mila lay awake. The echo of Kinsley's whisper from the morning replaying, now laced with possibility rather than peril. Days blurred into a rhythm. Stolen moments in hallways and elevators. Texts that arrived like lifelines during long work hours. Mila sketched portraits of Kinsley in secret, capturing the curve of her smile, the intensity in her gaze. Kinsley slipped notes under Mila's door, scribbled quotes from poets that spoke of quiet revolutions in the heart. One weekend, they ventured out, the city unfolding like a lover's palm. Breakfast at a cozy diner in the village, where waitresses with stories in their eyes poured coffee strong as their banter. They wandered Central Park, leaves crunching underfoot in autumn's golden hush, hands brushing as they shared a bench, watching joggers blur past. Tell me something true, Kinsley said, her head on Mila's lap, fingers toying with a fallen leaf. Mila hesitated, then spoke of her first love, a girl in high school art class whose touch had awakened her, only to end in tearful goodbyes when families pulled them apart. The pain lingered, a scar that Kinsley's listening softened. In turn, Kinsley revealed her own fracture. Sarah, not just an ex but a colleague, who'd betrayed her trust in a story gone wrong, leaving scars that made every intimacy a risk. Yet here, with Mila, the risk felt worth it. A leap into light. Their connection deepened, layers peeling back like an onion's heart, each revelation drawing them closer. Evenings ended with kisses that promised more, bodies pressing in doorways, breaths shared until dawn threatened. But shadows crept in, subtle at first. Kinsley's phone would buzz during dinners, pulling her away with urgent calls, her face tightening into the mask of her profession. Mila noticed the late nights, the way Kinsley's eyes grew distant, haunted by deadlines that demanded her soul. One evening, after a show in Brooklyn, rain slicking the streets, they hurried back, laughing through the downpour. In the elevator, soaked and shivering, Kinsley pinned Mila against the wall, their kiss fierce, water dripping from hair to skin. The doors opened too soon, but they stumbled to Kinsley's door, urgency propelling them inside. Clothes fell away in a trail to the bedroom, bodies colliding with the storm outside. Kinsley's hands mapped Mila's curves, lips following with reverence, eliciting gasps that mingled with thunder. Mila reciprocated, tasting salt and rain on Kinsley's neck, her fingers exploring with a tenderness born of longing. They moved together, slow then urgent, whispers turning to moans that echoed off walls. Climax came in waves, crashing over them, leaving them spent and entwined, breath sinking in the afterglow. Lying there, Kinsley's head on Mila's chest, she murmured, "This scares me. How much I need you already." Mila stroked her hair, voice steady. "Me too. But we're in it now." The night wrapped them in fragile peace, but dawn brought the first crack. Kinsley's editor called early, voice crackling through the phone like static interference, demanding revisions on a piece about underground queer clubs facing gentrification threats. Mila stirred beside her, eyes fluttering open to the sight of Kinsley pacing naked by the window, phone pressed to ear, words clipped and professional. She watched the play of morning light across Kinsley's back, muscles tensing with each concession she made, and felt a pang, the first whisper of imbalance in their fragile equilibrium. Breakfast was hasty, toast and jam at the kitchen counter. Kinsley's apologies soft but insistent. "I have to head in. But tonight. Promise me. No work. Just us." Mila nodded, forcing a smile as she dressed, the city's clamor rising through the floorboards like an impatient lover. She kissed Kinsley goodbye in the hallway, a quick press that lingered too long, then descended alone, the elevator feeling emptier without her. At her studio in Soho, surrounded by the hum of printers and the scent of fresh ink, Mila threw herself into designs for a client's ad campaign, lines sharp and vibrant to drown out the unease. Her phone buzzed sporadically, Kinsley's texts a lifeline, miss you already. Thinking of your hands on me. Smiling. Mila replied with a sketch of them tangled in sheets. A digital whisper that bridged the hours. By evening, anticipation built like storm clouds over the skyline. She arrived at Kinsley's with a bottle of Merlot and a playlist of indie folk that spoke of wandering hearts finding home. Dinner was takeout from a Thai place down the block. Spicy noodles that made them laugh through watering eyes. The heat mirroring the spark between them. They ate cross-legged on the floor. Cushions scattered like afterthoughts. Wine loosening tongues. Kinsley spoke of her childhood in Chicago. Summers by Lake Michigan where she'd first kissed a girl behind a dune. The thrill mixed with terror of discovery. Mila shared tales from her Albany upbringing. Art classes where teachers saw her talent but not her hidden truths. Forcing her to paint rainbows in grayscale. As plates cleared, Kinsley pulled Mila onto her lap. Straddling her with a grin that belied the day's weariness. Dance with me. No music needed. They swayed. Bodies sinking in silent rhythm. Hands roaming with familiar ease. The kiss that followed was unhurried. Exploratory. Lips parting to taste the wine on each other's breath. Bed called them eventually. Sheets cool against heated skin. Kinsley's touch was reverent. Fingers tracing Mila's spine as if committing it to memory. Eliciting shivers that had nothing to do with the autumn chill. Mila arched into her. Nails grazing shoulders. Their union a slow burn that built to fervent peaks. Cries muffled against necks and pillows. Afterward. Curled together. Kinsley traced Mila's tattoo. A delicate vine curling around her wrist. Symbol of growth amid thorns. What's the story here? She asked. Voice drowsy with satisfaction. Mila hesitated. The memory surfacing like a half-forgotten dream. My mom got it with me before she passed. Said life twists. But you bloom anyway. Tears pricked her eyes. Unexpected. And Kinsley held her closer. No words needed. Just the steady thrum of heart against heart. Sleep came easy that night. Dreams woven with threads of their shared warmth. But morning brought reality crashing back. Kinsley's alarm a harsh intruder. Another deadline. Another story pulling her under. Mila dressed quietly. Watching from the doorway as Kinsley typed furiously. Brow furrowed in concentration. I'll see you soon. Kinsley promised. Blowing a kiss that Mila caught and pressed to her chest. The door closed softly behind her. But the echo lingered. A subtle fracture in the idyll. Weeks passed in this dance. Passion flaring bright against the grind of daily lives. They carved out escapes. A weekend drive upstate to the Catskills. Where leaves blazed in fiery hues. Hiking trails wound through forests that smelled of pine and earth. Their hands linked as they climbed. Breaths puffing in crisp air. At a secluded cabin rented on a whim. They built a fire. Flames crackling like laughter. Kinsley roasted marshmallows. Feeding them to Mila with sticky fingers. Kisses tasting of sugar and smoke. Night fell heavy. Stars pricking the velvet sky. And they made love on a blanket by the hearth. Bodies glowing in firelight. Urgency tempered by the wild's quiet witness. Yet even here. Intrusion came. Kinsley's phone signal flickered back to life. A message from her editor about a lead on a scandal involving city officials and queer safe spaces. She silenced it. But the distraction lingered in her eyes. A shadow Mila pretended not to see. Back in the city. The rhythm faltered. Mila landed a big contract. Illustrations for a magazine spread on emerging artists. Demands that mirrored Kinsley's own. Dinners cancelled. Texts delayed. The elevator encounters rarer. Charged with hurried kisses that left them both wanting. One rainy Thursday. Mila waited in the lobby. Umbrella dripping. For Kinsley to return from a late stakeout. Hours ticked by. Worry gnawing like damp cold. When Kinsley finally appeared. Disheveled and soaked. Eyes hollow. Mila pulled her into an alcove. Concern sharpening her words. What happened? You look wrecked. Kinsley leaned against the wall. Exhaustion etching lines around her mouth. The story blew up. Sources backed out. Threats came in. I can't drag you into this mess. Mila cupped her face. Thumbs wiping rain from cheeks. I'm already in. Let me help. But Kinsley shook her head. Pulling away gently. Not yet. It's too dangerous. The word hung between them. A barrier erected in the night's secrecy. That evening. Alone in her apartment. Mila paced. The whisper from their first encounter echoing mockingly. Dangerous. The night had turned hot. Yes. But now it simmered with undercurrents she couldn't ignore. She poured a glass of wine. Staring at the city lights. Resolve hardening. Tomorrow. Shed push. Demand entry into Kinsley's world. Thorns and all. Friday dawned gray. Mirroring Mila's mood. At work. Sketches blurred under frustrated strokes. Her mind replaying Kinsley's withdrawal. By lunch. She texted, "Meet me at the park. We need to talk." Kinsley's reply came swift, "Can't. Deadline. Rain check." The rejection stung. Sharper than expected. Mila wandered the streets instead. Rain slicking sidewalks. Thoughts churning. She ended up at a cafe in Chelsea. Nursing espresso amid patrons sketching or typing. The creative hum a poor substitute for companionship. Evening found her at home. Scrolling through old photos. Faces of exes blurring into one another. Each a lesson in guarded hearts. A knock startled her. Kinsley standing there. Takeout bag in hand. Expression sheepish. "I bailed on the deadline. Chose this instead." Her smile was tentative. Offering peace. Mila let her in. Tension easing as they ate on the couch. Knees touching. Conversation skirted the edge. Light topics first. Then deeper. Kinsley admitted the story's toll. Anonymous tips hinting at corruption that could endanger sources. Her own safety a footnote. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" Mila asked. Fork paused midair. "Fear. I guess. Of losing you to it." Kinsley's voice cracked. Vulnerability raw. Mila set her plate aside. Pulling her close. "You won't. But shut me out again. And I walk." The pact sealed with a kiss. Slow and reaffirming. Leading to bed where they reclaimed each other. Touches lingering. Apologies woven into caresses. Sleep came tangled. A temporary balm. But the danger loomed. Unspoken. Waiting to test them. Saturday brought a break. A gallery opening in Tribeca where Mila's work hung among rising stars. Kinsley arrived fashionably late. Stunning in an emerald dress that hugged her frame. Eyes lighting up as she navigated the crowd to Mila's side. "Proud of you," she whispered. Hand on the small of Mila's back. A public claim that warmed her through. They mingled. Champagne flutes clinking. Compliments flowing like the East River nearby. In a quiet corner. Away from prying eyes. Kinsley stole a kiss. Quick but fierce. Igniting sparks amid the artsy murmur. Later. Walking home arm in arm. The city alive with weekend energy. Mila felt the shift. A deepening beyond physical pull. This could be real. She thought. If we let it. At Kinsley's. They shed the night's glamour. Collapsing into laughter over bad art critiques. Wine led to wandering hands. Clothes discarded in heaps. Their lovemaking a celebration. Bodies moving in syncopated joy. Peaks reached with shared gasps. Dawn filtered in. Painting them in gold. Kinsley's head pillowed on Mila's stomach. Breaths even. For a moment. Perfection held. Then the phone rang. Shattering it. Kinsley answered groggily. Face paling as words tumbled from the speaker. An anonymous call. Warning her off the story. Voice distorted but intent clear, "Back away. Or pay." She hung up. Trembling. And Mila pulled her close. Heart pounding with fresh fear. "What now?" "We fight," Kinsley said. Steel returning to her spine. Together. The decision marked a turning point. Alliance forged in adversity. Mila offered her skills. Suggesting visuals to anonymize sources in Kinsley's piece. A fusion of their worlds. Days blurred into collaborative nights. Laptops open side by side. Takeout containers littering tables. Tension hummed. Not just from work. But the undercurrent of desire. Stolen touches amid keystrokes. One evening. Frustration peaked. Kinsley slamming her lid down. "It's hopeless. They'll bury it." Mila knelt before her. Hands on thighs. "Then we dig deeper. Use my designs to map it out. Make it undeniable." The plan sparked hope. Their kiss igniting into passion. Desk cleared in haste. Bodies claiming space with urgent need. Release came hard. A release of pent-up fears. Leaving them slick and sated. Progress inched forward. But so did threats. A slashed tire on Kinsley's car. Mail with veiled warnings. Paranoia crept in. Mila jumping at shadows. Kinsley insisting she stay over for safety. In those nights, vulnerability bonded them tighter. Whispers and dark turning confessional. Mila admitted doubts about the city's grind. Longing for space to breathe. Kinsley confessed dreams of leaving journalism for something quieter. Perhaps writing novels from a coastal retreat. Their talks wove futures. Tentative threads of maybe. The dangerous night evolving into shared resolve. Yet climax brewed. Inevitable as a gathering storm. The breaking point arrived on a crisp November evening. Wind whipping through Midtown's canyons as Mila waited outside Kinsley's office building. A sketch pad under arm for their planned escape to a jazz club in Harlem. Streetlights cast long shadows, mirroring the unease gnawing at her gut. Kinsley's texts had grown sparse that day. Cryptic mentions of a breakthrough interview. And now, as minutes stretched to an hour, worry twisted into dread. Finally, Kinsley emerged. Flanked by two colleagues. Faces grim under the neon glow. She spotted Mila. Expression crumpling. And hurried over. Pulling her into a side alley away from prying eyes. "It's bad," she breathed. Voice ragged. "The source. They got to him. He's in hiding. And now they know I have the files." Mila's stomach dropped. The city's roar fading to a dull thrum. Files? What files? Recordings. Proof of bribes to shut down those clubs. I was supposed to hand them off tonight. But. Her words faltered. Eyes darting to the street. Someone followed me. Panic surged. Hot and metallic on Mila's tongue. "We need to get out of here. Your place. Now." They hailed a cab. Huddling in the back seat. Kinsley's hand clenched in Mila's. Knuckles white. The driver chattered about traffic. Oblivious. But every honk jolted them. At the building, they bolted to the elevator. Doors closing just as a figure lingered in the lobby. Too distant to identify but close enough to chill. Upstairs, Kinsley barricaded the door. Pacing like a caged animal. Mila brewed tea. Hands shaking. The domestic act a frail shield. "Sit," she urged. Guiding her to the couch. "Tell me everything." Kinsley sank down. Words spilling in a torrent. The story exposed councilmen funneling funds to developers. Targeting queer-owned spaces under guise of urban renewal. Her source, an insider, had risked everything for the tapes. Now, with threats escalating, fear clawed at her resolve. "We can't stay here," Mila said, mind racing through options. "My family has a cabin in the Adirondacks. Remote. We go there. Lay low. Finish the piece safely." Kinsley met her gaze. Gratitude mingling with terror. "You'd do that? For me? For us?" Mila pulled her close. Lips brushing forehead. "Pack light. We leave at dawn." The night stretched endless. Sleep elusive. They lay entwined. Bodies seeking solace. But touches were gentle. More comfort than fire. Whispers weaving plans amid the hum of the city below. Kinsley traced Mila's jaw. Voice soft. "If we get through this, I want more. Trips. Lazy mornings. A life not just stolen moments." Mila nodded. Throat tight. "Deal. But first, survive." Dawn broke pale. Suitcases zipped in haste. They slipped out. Cab to Penn Station. Boarding a train north amid commuters oblivious to their freight. The Hudson blurred past. Autumn foliage a fleeting beauty against mounting dread. In the quiet car, Kinsley's head on Mila's shoulder. She murmured. "Thank you. For seeing me. All of me." Mila kissed her temple. "Always." The cabin nestled deep in the woods. A weathered A-frame Mila's father had built decades ago. Now a sanctuary from the world's clamor. Keys turned in rusty locks. Dust motes dancing in slanted light. They unpacked minimally. Laptops and files on the kitchen table. The rest forgotten in favor of fresh air. First days blurred into routine. Mornings hiking leaf-strewn paths. Breath sinking with the crunch underfoot. Afternoons spent over work. Mila illustrating timelines. Kinsley transcribing audio. Their collaboration a bomb. Evenings by the fireplace. Stew simmering on the stove. Stories shared over mugs of cider. One night, Stars blanketing the sky. They bundled in blankets on the porch. Fireflies winking like conspirators. Kinsley leaned into Mila. Voice hushed. Remember our first elevator ride? That whisper. Felt like fate then. Mila chuckled softly. Fingers interlacing. Terrifying fate. But yeah. Changed everything. Their kiss under the cosmos was slow. Deepening with the night's chill. Leading inside where warmth awaited. Clothes shed by firelight. Bodies mapping familiar territories with renewed wonder. Touches lingering on scars both visible and not. Union came tender. Waves building to quiet release. Afterglow spent in murmured vows. Yet isolation bred ghosts. Kinsley's phone. Spotty signal. Brought voicemails from her editor. Pressure mounting. Nightmares woke her. Sweating. Convinced shadows at the window were pursuers. Mila held her through tremors. Humming lullabies from childhood. But sleep remained fractured. A week in. Breakthrough came. Files compiled. Story drafted. Mila's visuals adding punch. Excitement bubbled. Plans to return. Expose it all. But jubilation soured with a call, signal strong enough for Kinsley to check messages. Her face drained of color. They found the source. Keys. Hurt. Details trickled. Vague but brutal. A beating in an alley. Warnings etched in bruises. Guilt crashed over Kinsley. Sobs racking her frame. Mila rocked her. Fury simmering beneath calm. This ends now. We finish and send it. Make it count. They worked through the night. Words and images forging a weapon. Dawn saw the email dispatched. Story to her editor with pleas for immediate publication. Exhaustion claimed them. Collapse into bed. Limbs heavy. Relief was fleeting. Midday. Tires crunched on gravel. Uninvited. Through the window. A black SUV idled. Two men emerging. Faces obscured by caps. Panic surged. Hearts hammering. Mila grabbed the landline. Dialing local sheriff. Voice steady despite terror. Kinsley clutched her files. Backing toward the door. The men approached. Knocks echoing like gunshots. Sheriff en route. 10 minutes. Mila whispered. Barricading with a chair. Kinsley nodded. Eyes fierce. If they break in. We fight. Mila gripped a poker from the hearth. Stance protective. Voices outside. Muffled demands to open up. Tied to the city mess. Tension coiled. Seconds stretching. Then sirens wailed distant. Growing nearer. The men bolted. SUV peeling away as lights flashed through trees. Sheriff arrived. Burly and reassuring. Taking statements. Promising pursuit. They knew of the story. Corruption tendrils reaching rural edges. Safe now. He said. But stay vigilant. Aftermath left them shaken. Huddled on the couch. Tea steaming untouched. Kinsley buried face in Mila's neck. Tears hot. I almost lost you. Mila stroked her back. Voice firm. Didn't. Won't. That night? Storm brewed. Thunder rumbling like unresolved anger. Rain lashed windows. Wind howling through pines. Power flickered. Plunging them into dark. Candles guttering on the table. In the wavering light. Kinsley pulled Mila close. Desperation in her grip. Need you. Now. To feel alive. The kiss was feral. Born of survival. Hands tearing at clothes with frantic need. They tumbled to the rug. Bodies slick with sweat and rain scent. Mouths claiming skin in bites and licks. Kinsley atop. Hips grinding with urgent rhythm. Mila's nails raking back. Urging deeper. Storm peaked outside as they did within. Cries lost to thunder. Release shattering like lightning. Collapsed. Panting. Kinsley whispered. I love you. First time spoken. Raw and real. Mila held her. Tears mingling. Love you too. Through it all. Morning brought clarity. Story breaking online. Headlines screaming exposure. Calls flooded. Editor ecstatic. Sources rallying. The men identified. Arrests pending. Danger receding like tide. They lingered a day more. Packing slow. Savoring quiet. Drive back south. City waiting. But changed. In the car. Windows down. Wind tousling hair. Kinsley reached for Mila's hand. What's next for us? Mila smiled. Eyes on the road. Whatever we build. Together. Back in Manhattan. Life resumed with new layers. Kinsley's byline dominated newsstands. Vindication Suite. Mila's illustrations featured in the piece. Her name alongside. A partnership etched in public ink. Evenings now held in tension. Dinners cooked side by side. Weekends planned escapes to beaches or mountains. The elevator, once site of whispered secrets, became routine, but glances lingered. Promises and shared smiles. One night, months later, snow dusting streets. They stood in that same metal box. Doors closing soft. Kinsley leaned in, breath warm. Remember when this got dangerous? Mila grinned, pulling her close. Hottest danger ever. Made us who we are. Their kiss, soft and sure, echoed with memory. The night ahead full of warmth. Not peril. Secrets shared. Hearts open. They stepped into forever. One floor at a time. In the quiet aftermath, Mila reflected on the journey. From solitary sketches to this intertwined life. Love, she realized, wasn't absence of storms, but dancing through them. Emerging whole. Kinsley, beside her, embodied that truth. A partner in bloom amid thorns. And in the city's endless hum, they thrived. Whispers now songs of endurance and grace. Winter deepened its hold on New York, blanketing the streets in a hush that contrasted the inner fire Mila and Kinsley had kindled. Mornings began with coffee brewed strong, shared over the kitchen table in Kinsley's apartment. Now their shared space. Boxes long unpacked and walls adorned with Mila's prints alongside Kinsley's framed articles. The story that had nearly unraveled them now stood as a testament. Citations pouring in from activists grateful for the light shed on shadowed injustices. Kinsley had taken a brief sabbatical. Her editor insisting on rest after the ordeal. Time she filled with tentative novel drafts. Fingers flying over keys while Mila sketched beside her, capturing scenes in fluid lines. Their days wove domesticity with creativity. Grocery runs to markets in the West Village yielding ingredients for experimental meals. Laughter spilling over spilled spices or undercooked rice. Yet echoes of danger lingered. Subtle as frost on windows. Anonymous letters arrived. Postmarked from nowhere. Words scrawled in block print, "You think it's over." Mila burned them in the sink. Flames curling paper to ash. But the chill seeped in. Kinsley noticed her tension, pulling her into hugs that grounded. Whispers of reassurance against earlobes. One afternoon, bundled against sleet, they wandered Union Square. Holiday lights twinkling premature. Vendors hawked chestnuts and scarves. The air thick with spice and cheer. Kinsley bought Mila a knit hat, tugging it over her ears with a grin. "Looks good. Keeps your brilliant brain warm." Mila swatted her playfully. But warmth bloomed chest deep. Later, at a cafe overlooking the green, steaming mugs between them, she broached the unspoken. "Those letters. They're getting to you too, aren't they?" Kinsley stirred her latte, foam swirling like thoughts. "A little. But we beat worse. Remember the cabin? The storm?" Mila nodded, hand covering hers. "How could I forget? Best night of my life." Eyes met, heat flickering despite the cold pain. They left early. Cab ride home a prelude. Hands wandering under coats. Breaths quickening. At the door, keys fumbled. Urgency spilling inside. Coats hit floor. Followed by sweaters. Lips meeting in hallway with pent-up need. Bedroom claimed them. Slow undress by lamplight. Reverent touches tracing collarbones. Hips. Kinsley knelt. Mouth exploring Mila's core with deliberate strokes. Eliciting arches and gasps. Fingers joining to heighten waves. Mila reciprocated on knees. Tasting devotion. Hands guiding rhythm until Kinsley shattered. Name a prayer on lips. Entwined after? Sheets tangled. Mila traced Kinsley's ribs. "We should get away. Somewhere warm. Florida maybe. Keys." Kinsley hummed agreement. Fingers toying with hair. "Soon. Promise." Holiday season amplified joys and strains. Mila's family invited her upstate. A gathering laced with old tensions. Aunts probing about her single status with veiled judgments. She went. But brought photos on her phone. Casual mentions of Kinsley slipping in like sunlight through clouds. Reactions mixed. A uncle's gruff approval outweighing mother's hesitant questions. Seeds planted for future acceptance. Kinsley's Christmas was solitary by choice. Parents distant in Chicago. But Mila surprised her with a tree. Small and lopsided. Ornaments scavenged from thrift shops. They decorated in pajamas. Jazz crooning from speakers. Baubles dangling from strings like shared memories. Gifts exchanged under boughs, Mila a leather-bound journal for Kinsley's writing. Kinsley a custom sketchpad with their entwined initials embossed. New Year's Eve found them on a rooftop bar in Brooklyn. City sprawling, fireworks ready. Countdown echoed. Confetti raining. Their kiss amid cheers, a vow renewed. Back home. Celebrations turned intimate. Champagne fizzing on tongues before bodies joined. Slow dances leading to fervent unions. Peaks timed to distant booms. January brought renewal. Snow melting to slush under tires. Kinsley returned to work part-time. Easing in with lighter pieces on community resilience. Mila secured a gallery show. Her series on hidden intimacies drawing buzz. Themes inspired by their saga without naming it. Success bred balance. Date nights intentional, theater in the theater district. Post-show walks dissecting plots, brunches in Dumbo with skyline views. Mimosas loosening dreams of travel. They booked the keys. Flights for Valentine's. Anticipation a hum in veins. But peace fractured mid-month. A call from Kinsley's editor. Voice urgent, follow-up leads. Possible retaliation angle. Want you on it. Kinsley hesitated. Glancing at Mila across breakfast. I could say no. Mila set down her fork. Resolve in eyes. Do it. But smart. No solos. Agreement forged. Kinsley dove in. Mila tagging for visuals. Late nights returned. But shared. Pizza boxes stacking as they pieced puzzles. Tension built. Not just work. But proximity. Glances charged. Breaks turning to quick trysts in bathrooms or against walls. Releases sharp and necessary. One such night. After a breakthrough tip. Adrenaline surged. Door barely shut. Kinsley pressed Mila to it. Skirt hiked. Fingers delving with precision. Mouth on neck. Mila gasped. Legs wrapping. Counter thrusts meeting need. Climax swift and shuddering. Calmer after. Sprawled on floor. Kinsley murmured. You're my anchor. Mila smiled. Chest heaving. And you're my storm. Best kind. The story progressed cautiously. Sources vetted. Meetings in public. Threats dwindled. Justice grinding slow but sure. By trip's eve. Closure neared. A sense of triumph quiet but profound. Florida welcomed with balmy breezes. Keys a string of islands like scattered jewels. Their cottage perched on shore. Waves lapping porch pilings. Hammock swaying invitation. Days blurred, snorkeling coral reefs. Hands linked underwater. Fish darting like secrets, sunsets on beach. Toes in sand. Wines shared as stars emerged. Nights hummed with passion. Screened porch their stage. Mosquito nets veiling moon's glow. Kinsley traced Mila's body with oiled hands. Massage turning erotic. Lips following paths to quivers and sighs. Mila led once. Blindfolding Kinsley. Feathers and fingers teasing to edges. Release a symphony of pleas. Mornings lazy. Breakfasts of mango and coffee. Talks of future, perhaps a joint project. Graphic novel of their tales anonymized. Or moving west. California coasts calling with promise of space. Return to city invigorated. Spring budding in parks. Gallery opening a hit. Kinsley in front row. Pride radiant. After party at home. Guests toasting. But early exit to privacy. Celebrations private. Bodies celebrating survival. Summer approached. Plans multiplying, road trip to national parks. Tents and trails, writing retreat for Kinsley. Mila illustrating. Love settled. Not stagnant. But evolving. Depths plumbed daily. One evening. Central Park picnic. Blanket spread under oaks. Kinsley pulled a small box from basket. Not ring. She clarified. Opening to reveal matched pendants. Vines like Mila's tattoo. For us. To wear our story. Mila fastened hers. Tears brimming. Perfect. Their kiss. Amid picnickers and birdsong. Sealed it. A chapter closing on danger. Opening to enduring heat. Reflecting later. Mila saw the arc, from elevator whisper to this grounded flame. Secrets birthed vulnerability. Danger forged strength. Heat sustained. Humanistic in essence. Their bond a reminder, love thrives not despite trials, but through them, leaving echoes of grace and hearts mended.